Call this meeting of City, kind of City School District number 52 to order, please rise for the minutes.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to the vote. We want the approval of the agenda. Any comments, questions, modifications? No modifications? No.
No.
Dan, move to approve.
I will second the approval of the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving on to delegations, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you very much. Well, I've got some folks here. And I'd first like to introduce our freshly retired art teacher, Donna, is here. And you can see we have a giant bear sitting over here. It's been exquisitely painted. I'm going to encourage anyone, if you please take a close look at it. You can't do it justice from here. It's amazing. But I'd like to introduce Donna to introduce these young folks and tell us about our bear.
So the Art Club Community Service this year was presented to do a bear for our community. There was an outreach from the community. I'm going to say the word wrong. Never say that word correctly. Reached out and my seniors this year that happened to be part of the art club had decided that they would like to take on the challenge. And we were going to actually do 2 bears because the middle school kind of backed out on theirs and we just couldn't do it. These guys spent countless hours during a drawing class, but they were actually doing painting because they were advanced students. And so I'd like to bring Juan Perez up and our president, Cheryl Norman, and one of our officers too. They're all officers. Andrea Gomez, and kind of talk about what they did. I didn't get to see the middle part because I was out with a torn bicep surgery. So I was out of school for a while, but I was in on the planning with them at the beginning and then got to be at the end with them for the last 3 weeks. So Cheryl and Andrea and Juan.
Okay, so we were given this bear and we were just sort of told to kind of like try to capture the essence of Benton City. And like when I think of Benton City, like the first thing that comes to mind for me is like all the vineyards and stuff. We have like a lot of vineyards and like wineries around here. So we did that over on this side of the bear, which unfortunately you can't see because you were all over there. But that's sort of what I was thinking. And then we also wanted to incorporate like some other parts of Benton City, like, you know, the bridge, the river, the school. And we really tried to get as much as we could in there. But Cheryl, you want to talk a little bit more about the process?
It was a long process. We started out by kind of just sketching our ideas, what we all wanted to do on the bear. And so we put it into basic ideas. And then we all decided to do a section of the bear and just start painting it because we needed to get it done. We knew it was going to take us a long time. And so we all painted our different sections, and then by the end, we all blended them together. And so it looks like one piece of art.
Because I think I came in end of February or so, and it was, you guys were still just sketching in pencil.
I feel like the sketching probably took the most time. We had a lot of pencil marks under all of that paint. But it ended up being great and we're really proud of it.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the time you guys put into this. So I'm Kyle Spies, the chairperson of the Benton City Revitalization Organization. We did receive a donation of $500 for you guys from local people.
Wow.
So that's for the art club. for the future. I know you guys are all seniors, so you're graduating and moving on to new things. I know I worked with you and talked to you in class about sharing those opportunities here even after you graduate. So please become a part of our organization if you're interested. We're looking at doing these kinds of things around town. Like she said, we do have a second fair, so that'll be coming soon as well, and it'll have its own ideas. This one will be mounted here at the high school. But we're gonna clear coat it and get it put outside. And then the other one will probably be near the middle school. But the goal is just trying to bring more community into town and getting people together to do things.
The second bear was going to be a timeline of how Kiona and Benton City merged and was gonna do a timeline around it. They just didn't have time
Yeah,
to
great
incorporate it.
Yep.
So that was what we came up with. Well, actually, these
Yep.
guys came up with.
So more to come.
Hopefully, they can get that idea to them. So, anything else you guys want to say? Okay, I'll see you guys outside for a couple minutes, and then we're planning our art trip this week
Yep.
to Seattle to go see Chihuly class and all that
Awesome.
wonderful stuff. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Do the evening section.
I know, I was gonna ask whose idea that was, and when that happened. Ended up having a cake. I'm not sure.
I hope there's like a loose cow or sheep on there.
Maybe it's a cat, but it ended up in.
All right.
Take a look. Take a look.
I'm not sure where I can go after that comment.
Make sure you capture that in the minutes, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll now move on to the proposed consent agenda. Any comments or questions here?
I do have a comment for those that might be watching or that were here 2 weeks ago. There, because we moved their separations 2 weeks ago, so I was curious if we could get an explanation as to why they're back on the agenda. How that happens or what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Teddy. So when we had our two of the separations that are repeats that are on here tonight. When we voted on, when the board voted and accepted the non-renewals, one of the comments that had been made was that they didn't feel that one of the applicants or one of the people did not feel there had been sufficient time to present any rebuttals, quite frankly. And so after a couple of different conversations that I had with other employees as well as some folks who we contract with, the decision was made to go ahead and have a second vote, a revote. This will in effect take the place of the previous vote. And as you can see, as the board was aware, we had a 9 a.m. this morning cutoff for any individuals who were facing non-renewal to get us some information. So that information did come to us, and it was forwarded to the board for review, along with the second recommendation on my part. So it did as it was intended, which was to give ample opportunity for any rebuttal on the part of folks who were facing non-renewal.
Good. Any other comments or questions? Goes to consent agenda.
I move to approve the proposed consent agenda. 5-7, but not.
Second.
Bye.
Dan. All in favor?
Yeah.
We're moving on to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
I sat down. On behalf of the art club, because we have $3,600 in our account, plus it's $500 now. The art club would like to donate $500 of our art club funds to start the Heather Pantry in the fall.
Awesome.
Okay, so that way we do have things in the pantry to get it going, and that was the last raha that the seniors wanted to do for next year. But we'll have somebody come back and buy the stuff, but we'll get the funds to do that so that we have our community have some food to start. And I was told I had to turn this check over.
Oh, good.
Or actually, wasn't to Heidi, was to.
There we go.
If Mona wasn't here, then it was not.
There you go. Thank you, Donna. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Do we have any other public comment? Any electronic? All right, with that, we'll move on to director reports. Ms. Stella is out. Is that correct?
Yes, we have written reports that were sent to the board from Ms. Vala, Mr. Hanson, and Ms. Swiger.
Great, so we'll start with Mr. Castillo.
Update on a handful of programs here. I'm going to start off with professional development and clock hours. This month, by the end of June, I'll be processing clock hours, the ones that are still out there to be processed, which is for Wednesday PLCs. And then also June 12th, where Mr. Peterson put together a class for our STEM teachers at 6 o'clock hours that we'll be offering to them on the 12th of June. So Thursday this week. Yep. So great opportunity for our STEM teachers, and then they'll also be receiving 6 o'clock hours, STEM clock hours, which are always gold. You have to have, what's it, 10 or 15? 15, yeah. So that's a great opportunity for our teachers. In summary, this year we had between 70 and 76 clock hours that we offered our teachers. Starting from August, our PD for the beginning of the school year, which are about 24 hours. We had our October fall PD for 6. We had, unfortunately, no fall or spring PD day because that was a snow day that we had to from the school instead of have PD. And then PLCs, and then the June 12th. So around between 70 and 76, which is pretty neat opportunity for our teachers. So we'll continue to work on doing the best we can to offer that to our teachers. The CERT team, we have a training on Friday, the 20th. So next week on Friday will be our final training of the year, and that will be our last yearly qualification training. It's a range training that we'll participate in. With McKinney-Vento and foster care students that we monitored and supported this school year, we ended up with 17 McKinney-Vento students, and then we fluctuated between 6 and 8 foster care children that we monitored and supported throughout the school year. One of the growing trends right now, and I know Mr. Crago and I have been involved in a number of them this year, there's more and more foster children in foster care, and then there's more support and consideration needed for transportation needs. That ends up being the biggest need, because depending on where these children are coming from or going to, we have to discuss with other school districts as to what's the determination as to where the best place for children are, and then how do we get them to and from school for the remainder of the school year. So there kind of seems to be a little bit growing trend in the foster care arena. So, but I appreciate Mr. Crago and his support when we have to have those conversations about possible transportation needs for those children. For Heather's Pantry, thank you, Donna. Awesome. Appreciate it. I'm gonna put together, I was talking to Heidi about this, a little kind of special thank you card, especially there's 2 couples in town that they're just sweetheart couples. And I want to do something kind of a little nice thank you card for them and their efforts. They always seem to keep us in mind. Both Mr. and Mrs. Larry and Jeannie Howell, they're always thinking about the school district and children's needs. They have a Christmas offering for the congregation and an Easter offering every year. And they put money into a fund that we have access to be able to buy food for kids, which is awesome. There's another couple in town, Eric and Caroline Dorendorf. Every month they come and visit me at ECAP with gift cards to Kaibi Market so that we can buy food and help support kids. So just wanted to do a little something special. I was wondering if you guys would be willing to also sign, just a little thank you to them for their efforts. So I think it's really neat that we have just amazing people in town that thank you for their time and efforts. I appreciate that. So last but certainly not least, I'm really excited about this. In April, remember I talked about that big audit that ECAP was going through, and I give you So just give you an update. So kind of have a lengthy update, but bear with me. It's all good news. So we were working on this audit for the last couple of years, and in May, beginning of May, I submitted all the evidence, all the records, all to the state. And I just received the results on Friday. So I wanted to go over real quickly what it is that they looked at and what we scored. So these are all the standard areas that they evaluated, gave us points for, and what we scored on them. So there was a program profile that required completion of interviews and surveys for the director, teachers, and families. Out of 20 points, we scored 20. The video highlights, every classroom submitted 6 videos that had to highlight early learning and developmental guideline areas. So out of 30 points, we scored 30. Child outcomes that looked at policies and practice in place for screening children to spot developmental milestones and possible concerns, provide ongoing assessments and individualized instruction, and then communicating and sharing that information with parents. Out of 20, we scored 20. Interactions with families and curriculum that looked at policies and curriculum that we had in place and that it aligned with Washington State Early Learning Developmental Guidelines, and providing staff support and training. And that one, out of possible 10, we scored a 9. Family engagement partnerships, the work we do to engage and partner with families. Out of the 10, we scored 10. And then the area of professional development, they looked at educational levels, certification and training for the director, myself, and the staff. And out of, what was that? For my area, I got a 4 out of 4 in teachers, out of 4 out of 6. And that one only because the teachers don't have their AAs yet. But my goal is by the end of the next rating, which is 3 years from now, we're supporting them. And hopefully they all receive their AAs. So that's the goal for next year in that area. So maximum number of points for this audit was 100. The state requires that all ECAP score a 4 in a rating of 1 to 5. We scored 97 out of 100, which puts us at a quality of 5, which is that top number. So I wanted to share that awesome news. And once again, staff, they're awesome. They love kids and they love our community, they love our families, and they do an awesome job. And now it's evidenced by what the state was able to find it. So I wanted to share that great news. Great. Awesome. You have any questions?
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, Mr. Fairgross.
Remember to hand these out before we start the meeting. I realized that after we started. So. It's just a summary and similar to the last report I provided. Guys, have some numbers, details. Before I get started any of this, I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Castillo for those nice comments. When it comes to those programs and needs for students, I wanted to also thank our principals and Mr. Castillo. There hasn't been a time, I think, where we haven't had a very prompt meeting to make sure that we have the consideration of those kids. Every time it's been prompt, and all the thoughts and conversation has been, what can we do to help the kids? So I appreciate that. It makes my job a lot easier. In summary, if you go over the numbers at the beginning, over the last 90-day period when it comes to maintenance and grounds related activities, we've had a running total of 629 work orders. Of those, we've completed 525. And that leaves us with a remaining 164 in our to-do active backlog. So again, I share those previous reports I share, there's going to be a little bit of an overlap with that 90-day run. And hopefully with these numbers, we kind of start to see a trend of where we're able to keep up and where we're able to excel versus the areas where we struggle. Breaking that down a little bit of what that looks like for our staff. That comes out to you're getting about 9 to 10 work orders across the board a day. in almost all categories. And our team is able to complete and be efficient to about 8 to 9 completed days. So we're not quite at par where we're able to keep up on everything that comes in. And so that number, you get to anywhere between 14 and 30 days to usually complete out I'm going to call it a medium priority work order, if I can sum that up. You're going to see on that summary sheet, when it comes to the number of work orders, you're going to see a huge spike in the grounds category. Just 'tis the season from this report being March to now, that there's a lot of things that happen with sports fields and grass and maintaining that. We have been wrapping up and finishing HVAC related maintenance that involves cooling. I'm happy to report that our work order numbers in those areas have been manageable because of that preventative maintenance. So that has been a nice spot for maintenance. As far as things that we're finishing up, there are some small areas of the grounds that still will get some applications for broadleaf type products or herbicides. If you look at the grounds, again, with not having to put as much of those applications down, that saves some cost. But you still will see some areas where we have clover and things that we are trying to keep maintained and eliminated. So it's a game of maintaining it and not letting those things get out of control, but also not having to spend tons and tons of dollars on it. Vandalism, I have highlighted here, unfortunately, has been a highlight over the last few months. I wanted to give a thank you as well to, we've had a lot of volunteers help try to maintain that. I would even include Teddy Bryan and her husband Damon. we had a little bit of graffiti on the baseball building, and they were kind enough to be some of those volunteers to help cover that up. So I appreciate that a lot. With the vandalism, I wanted to share a bright note with that, and also thank the community, because our teams have been having a good attitude about that and trying to be prompt at covering it up and not having it be a spectacle. By doing that, I personally even had some really positive interactions with some of our community members saying thank you, that we were trying to address that promptly. So I appreciate the community recognizing that and understanding that we're doing the best we can to get that. And actually several people offering, yeah, next time, I'd love to help. So appreciate the community doing that. Is in transportation, May 28th, we had our annual Washington State Control inspection. So that includes our 15 currently active buses that are used in some capacity regularly, that we have to report to the state that we use and are safe, and 6 district support vehicles that, again, these are vehicles just to transport students or required to do so. Out of that inspection, it's very thorough. They actually only found 1 bus with 1 major repair. And it happens to be just a year of bus and a model of bus that they happen to have found the last 5 or 6 school districts that they've done inspections that go, we're seeing a trend with this one part. We're going to check it on every one now. And so it happens that they caught one really early on it, and we're happy to fix it because it's better to catch it early than catch it later. I wanted to give a thank you to our district mechanic, who works very hard to make sure the buses are safe, operational, and function well. And I think that's a positive reflection on his efforts and our bus drivers' efforts to try to make sure that we are taking care of our buses, taking care of those assets, as well as making sure it's suitable for our students to be transported to and from school. With summer coming into play, already getting a lot of work orders and good information from our facility staff to make sure that we're addressing items while we have an open opportunity. So in my next report, I will probably have a lot of exciting things to share what we accomplished during the summer. But yeah, I think even today I received an additional 20 or 30 plus items that we'll have to take a look at. So do you guys have any questions for me with this information? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, everybody. All right, so another year in the books for IT department. For the 24-25 year, we closed a total of 1,729 tickets, which roughly is about 9.6 tickets a day. It's pretty good for us. I definitely want to thank my team, Millie Rivas, Jamar Beecham, Kobe Chapman. They are rock stars. Anything I've had them do, they've done with great spirit, and I cannot thank them. Some of the big projects for us, left-hand side of this report, these are district-wide elements, and the one on the right are per building. One of the bigger projects for us can be a teacher device refresh. We do have some devices out there for some of our teachers that are needing refreshing, and just working with finance and things like that. We figured out a plan in order to make them. We will be upgrading them. We will not be upgrading them when we want them, but they will be getting an upgrade. So, yeah. Windows 11, I'm sure you guys are all aware, but Windows 10 is going to be end of cycle in October. So what we're looking at the IT department, we're migrating everyone over to Windows 11. One of our issues is it's based on the device. If a device is too old, you can't actually migrate. So we're counting the numbers now. The good thing is Microsoft does provide an extended warranty or extended service updates. It's $1 per device. It shouldn't be too bad. My goal is to make sure we get any device that we can onto Windows 11. And then I'll work with Martin about how many we're going to be purchasing. So, big thing for me specifically is going to be server maintenance. I know we've talked about it over this year about migrating most folks over virtual and to new virtual servers. The time is now, so I'll be working with Mr. Grego to get the HVAC system, both systems, both the Metasys and the Polar. I'll be working on the ECAP Bash server to migrate that actually to a virtual server. The big user heavy one will be the shared drive. I'll be working with the district office to make sure they know there will be a downtime, but we will get through it. We're going to be okay. Just not going to look at Heidi right now. That's all right. I know. And then also the print server. We've had some issues with users not being able to just automatically click on them. So we're going to ease that up for them, make that rock solid this summer to make sure that so when it's a printer, they can just go ahead. We're just going to send them to the server. You click on the link and it'll get you there. So network maintenance, these are pretty standard. We have spoke on running some cable runs for the elementary school. Building's older. We've had some cut lines. We're not sure what. It looks like bites, but all that to say, we're gonna have to run some more lines. We ran a few in the springtime. Definitely gonna finish it up this summer. So, and then also our switches look like spaghetti. We're gonna go ahead and try to fix that this summer, and hopefully it looks a little bit organized, more organized. Domain policy maintenance. So with the Windows 11 comes a new set of rules that we have to enforce for the users. So me and Ms. Rivas have been working on that in the back end. We've created a prototype to figure out what we want. But once Mr. Chapman, Kobe Chapman is going to be our guy migrating most of the folks. Once he gets them online, then we're going to start actually pushing out and make sure we're good to go. So the goal is to ensure that the users see the new operating system as closely as the Windows 10 operating system. So I'm going to move everything to the left and get rid of any extra icons and things like that. So that'll be fun. Now building specific projects for elementary school, those Ethernet runs that I spoke on, student device updates. So we have some older Lenovo's, like I spoke on. Those will more than likely not be able to migrate to Windows 11, but we're going to try, and we'll go from there. Teacher laptop. Mr. Beecham's already started working on updates, things like that. It was our first day of Windows summer work time, and he was raring to go. He was running around like a madman today, so it's good stuff. For the middle school, for the elementary school and the middle school, one of the projects that we've been trying to work on, if we believe we figured out a solution, is the communication system, Visiplex, was the radio-based frequency system. They're two separate systems. What we've ended up doing, I've worked with Visiplex, we're going to put one of their speakers in each of their buildings, so that way they can talk to each other just through one speaker. So in the event of a lockdown, things like that, Miss Lewis or Miss Rangel can go ahead and communicate that over their speakers, which also goes to the office, and then the middle school can go ahead and do that. So good stuff. For the middle school, we're doing a little bit of a change for the middle school students. This last year, every middle school student had a device that they took home. We're gonna adjust that just due to just repairs and things like that. We know some issues. So we'll be creating cows for all those things. So we've got them all back. We're gonna go ahead and get those repaired, and we built the cows, so we're gonna get those ready to roll for
Cows
them. Sorry, a computer on wheels. Computers on wheels. Yeah, no worries. And we're potentially doing another lab reconfiguration. The middle school has one lab, and Mr. Davidson is looking at potentially reconfiguring that, so it may look cool in a few months. So I may be inviting you guys over a little bit to check that out. So for the high school, pretty standard stuff. We do have some maintenance. We got to work on the camera. Some of them need to be buffed out. Some of them need to get replaced. When I mean replaced, I don't mean the device itself. It's just the covers for them. So minimal costs. And then just the annual senior laptop, we get them back, we get them repaired, get them cleaned up, and then we get them ready for the incoming freshmen. So when it comes to our one-to-one, now we're just going to be at the high school, where then our middle school is going to be the computers on wheels set up, and then for the elementary school, they have computer on wheels as well as some laptops in their classrooms themselves that have easier access to. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. This is absolutely just our some of our projects for the summer, but yeah. It's always busy. It's good to be busy this time.
This is true.
Because it's no phone calls.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. With that, we'll move to business and municipal update. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Skipper. Just real quick, update. So high school level programming actually started today. High school kids, you tend to want to keep them around. You give them a week off and they'll just scatter into the wilderness and never get them back. So Mr. Henry started his program today. Gear Up Math starts tomorrow. So we had our migrant program going today, our credit retrieval, those types of things. We do have a Gear Up middle school program that's going to be happening. A lot of our migrant students are doing that program at the middle school. It's, for lack of a better term, it truly is a Gear Up program that's being housed at the middle school. And then as most board members are aware, I kind of led up to this over the course of a month or so, but we did end up canceling our TK through 5th grade elementary program, our elementary summer school. By the time everything was said and done, we had 42 kids who were signed up, and quite frankly, we just couldn't see hiring a full staff. The transportation, quite frankly, would have for some kids on the end of the run, you could have had them on the bus each way for 45 minutes to get them here for a 2.5-hour program at lunch. So we're going to really kick off next year, kick it off early and try and get it. But one of the things that as I was looking back at numbers, we had at one point 4 or 5 years ago, we had 165 kids signed up, just K-5. The farther we get away from COVID, the farther we get away from the shutdown, our numbers just are kind of dropping off. So, not that we ever want to go through that again, but we can definitely see that it's having an impact. And I think as families are more likely now to get out and be taking trips and stuff, it's not going to result in as many kids coming to summer school. But that's something that we'll plan for next year. So that's all I have for a summer school update.
That will move on to new business. Item 9A, master schedule review, Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, just real quick. This is not something that necessarily the board certainly doesn't need to approve it. This is work that has always gone on behind the scenes, but given the fact that, excuse me, by the last day of school, we had all of our master schedules completed. Staff notified at least of these drafts. I thought that was pretty darn impressive. It was good work by our principals. Excuse me. There have been many a year, and we've worked very diligently to get an earlier and earlier date for our master schedules to be done. That helps our families know where their kids are going to be placed. It helps our teachers know what they're going to be teaching for the next year. And so for us now to have been successful in this, gotten it out to everyone before this current school year was over, was, I thought, a feat that was impressive, but also reflective of the very hard work that our principals, our counselors, everyone has done to get kids placed. There will be some tweaks between now and August, of course, but I not so fondly remember my first year and being in mid-August, and there was one completed schedule, and that was in mid-August. So we've come a long way with this type of pre-planning and organization, and they've done a really nice job, so we're important to be aware of it.
Please.
Just a quick question, having been this way when I was going to school, if you were not totally successful during the year, not well successful for whatever reason, do we notify the parents of options and opportunities to help regain direction?
Yes, at the high school level is the most important, because of the credits involved and the impact of graduation, of course. We have teams at the elementary, middle school. We call them multi-tiered systems support teams, MTSS, that look at our kids who are at risk, who are showing signs of whether it's disciplinary issues, social emotional issues, those types of things, get them staffed, and then hopefully get the parents involved. I think once you get to the high school, it's a bit of a catch-22. We have parents who stay very involved in their kids' academic progress towards graduation. We have others who will say at this point, if they haven't figured it out, there's not a heck of a lot I'm going to do, and kind of comes back on us. So we try to exist in that happy medium of giving enough information for all students, and not, for lack of a better term, micromanaging them or parents at the same time. I have found that there are times when we don't make the proper communication in the proper time. And then that's a failure on our part, a systems failure. We need to figure out why and make sure it doesn't happen again. But for the most part, I feel like our principals and our staff are doing a good job of staying on top of kids with specific needs or not so specific needs, just general needs like you're talking about.
No, I think communication with the school and the parents, school convention do what they can do, but if the parents to say, hey, throw that identification, here's a problem, there's some things you can look into, whether it's not voice. Personally, I test that it's not always successful, but
absolutely. I really think that, and I've experienced this firsthand, that as I send out parent square messages to the district as a whole, also goes to employees. There's a reply option for those. It used to be we'd send that phone call home and you hoped people would pick up. Well, heck, now they can literally reply to my emails, sending a comment, sending a question. Oh, it's amazing. People are also beginning to realize we do watch our Facebook page. And if they ask a question, we get a phone call, usually the next school day, and get told what the question is and how to address it. So we're getting better, and I think people are understanding that we'll get as much out there as possible, but now folks are having an easier chance to get back to us.
Great, thank you for that. Moving on to item 9B, PD schedule, Ms. Peterson.
Yeah, just real quick, this is a very lacking in detail PD schedule for the first week back for school for teaching staff. And this is just to give you an idea. Again, principals have worked very hard with their EACs, their educational advisory committees at each of the sites to find topics that the teachers are interested in, that the principals want to reinforce. They met with their staffs for about the last month, month and a half. Basically, it's culminated in what I think looks to be a fairly good and very current offering for our K-12 staff right when they come back from summer break. We're going to hit things hard with AI. It's hard to believe that we've only been in this little AI thing for about 2 years, but it's going crazy. And quite frankly, we need to have our staff know how to use it and how to use it correctly, or else it's something that can bowl you over, for lack of a better term. But with all of that, we have certain required things that we're going to be presenting as we always do. One of the purposes really, and this will lead into our next discussion for letter C, is the potential when some of these items, when funding is cut for those, we will start having to have discussion about the number of days of professional development that we're able to offer, because some are directly funded by the state of Washington. They give us topics that we have to cover. And if those things go away, then there will be questions to be answered about, do we repurpose those days, or does the funding for the presentation and staff payment just go away altogether? So those are, I want to get some of this information out to the board early, a year early, so that we have plenty of time, plenty of think time around these types of topics.
And with that, we'll move on to item C, proposed federal cuts.
Yep, and then right into it. I forwarded the board an article that came from Education Week, which detailed our president's current proposed budget and its impact to education. And so right off the bat, in that 4-page article, it goes from items that were consolidated to items that were reduced, and then to items that just flat out don't appear in their budget. And at a time when rural schools, especially in not just this state but the nation, are facing some tough times, unfortunately, I feel like this particular budget is going to take an undue toll on smaller districts, because while dollar amounts may not be as high for a district like ours, many times they make up a more significant portion of the total budget. If you saw, the Tri-City Herald ran an article about the loss of only migrant funds. So we're fortunate. We aren't a Kennewick or a Pasco that potentially is losing $3.8 million. We are, however, slated, if the migrant portion of the funding does get cut, it will be $417,000. Which by itself, and I think like all things by themselves can be planned for and can be taken into account. However, right now, the key federal cuts to 100% of our migrant funding eliminated, language acquisition, English language acquisition funding cut completely. TRIO, which is a program for students of poverty and first-generation students to transition from high school to college. That is going to be cut. Europe, eliminated. And then the one that I didn't send you last week was one I sent out today, which was the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. It was eliminated by executive order. One of these things will cause hiccups. A couple of these things will cause friction. All of these things tied together will cause major impact. So, again, this is not something that's right now. It's not imminent in the next month. However, they will start having real conversations at the federal legislative level in September, and we are going to have to pay attention to the federal process to a much higher degree than we have ever had to in the past. Usually, our focus is solely on the state. That can't be ignored this time at the federal level. There will be ramifications and hard decisions that I will bring to the board in the next year as a result of this that we're going to have to discuss at length before making decisions. So again, it's not imminent in the next month or so, however it's coming. I want to make sure you're all aware.
Well, I appreciate you being along with the finance team being proactive, and looking at that, certainly when taken in conjunction with the levy situation, and certainly as a compounding effect. Financial health of the district.
And I do want to reiterate one point because I don't want anyone to feel sorry for Hy-Vee, because quite frankly, we're in a better financial position than there are a lot of districts around us. We do not have the fund balance that we might like, but we've got a fund balance. There are districts who don't. So I try to say, you all know me after all of these years. I'm pretty much a glass half full guy. It's getting close to being half empty, but it's still half full. But we're with the fiscal team that we have right now. I know that we're going to be able to adapt and overcome. We're just going to face a level of challenge that have significantly impacted neighbors around us. I can look down the road one way to Richland, across the bridge to Kennewick, and down the road the other way to Prosser, and way back east over to Prescott. There's people that their existence is going to be questioned here in the next few years. So we are not nearly at that point, but we're going to make sure we're not ever going to get to that point. So,
What extent are we planning any sort of term board game scenarios with these potential budget implications for the future? Or are we just trying to keep it back of our mind now and see what happens?
well, right now, we're keeping it in the back of our mind, but as I've had conversations with many of our folks, and I liken this to the ESSER cliff that happened. We knew the ESSER funding during COVID was going to go away. And well before that funding ever went away, we started moving off of reliance on it for virtually anything. About a year before the final dollar could be spent, we had no employees being funded with ESSER or anything like that. So right now we're doing the same type of work, starting with migrant funding and bilingual funding, and trying to move folks out of those programs and into either basic ed or other sustainable funding. It won't be easy in the sense of ESSER was extra. Every district in Eastern Washington, quite frankly, has relied on migrant bilingual funding as a part of their basic education and staffing. So we're simply going to attack it, and I would say War Games is about as good a way of putting it as any. And it was a wonderful movie in 1984 for those of you old enough to remember, which virtually no one else is. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for that time now.
All right, with that, we'll move on to board comments.
I just want to say that, yeah, I enjoyed the graduation this year. One thing that I took away from it was the first kid that walked down and shook her hands and beat this.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little tiny bear that they were handshaking and then they just leave it in your hand. And so I was left there holding this little tiny bear and I was like, just not sure why it was in my hand. And I just thought about it that something so little had such a huge impact. But from the perspective of the crowd, I had somebody ask me, were they paying for their diplomas? So, but I just want to say that it went off really well. I enjoyed it. And now I have a little token to remember graduation that they paid for their diplomas with little tiny bears.
I didn't get any bears.
Excuse me. I laughed at the wrong time.
I did get a bear. I got, is yours pink, Gina? Mine was pink, purple. Mine was white pink.
Like more purple.
But yes, the bear thing was fun. There's been many years where they handed somebody something. We won't talk about what they all were, but
I liked the bears.
the bears were cute.
Bears
I
were
little.
good. We like the bears.
The bears were good.
Mr. Hanson's pockets must have been pretty full. He probably needed fanny packets.
Yeah.
I saw and heard when they unloaded their bears onto Katie's desk. It was a lot.
Thanks.
All right, with that, anything else? Then we'll move into executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1.0, section W, performance of public employee for 30